Hello, friends and lovers, it's Haelian, and today I'm here to answer, rather lazily, probably the biggest question that I get about Hades/Hades 2 right now, which is that, is this game worth it right now, in early access at its current price? And let me be as blunt as possible answering this question right away, because I'm sure a lot of you don't want to watch an entire video of me just ranting and raving. Yes, this game is worth $30 USD, that is how much I paid for the game. Therefore, I believe it is 100% worth paying that price for the game as is. So just as directly as possible, there's your answer if you want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? But allow me to kind of convince you, I guess. You know, I'm not really here to sell the game for you, but just to provide an opinion. Because, again, this is probably the most asked question I get by and large. Is this game worth it right now? Should I play it right now? And obviously, there's going to be more to it here. So first off, I mean, what does it have? I mean, it's got quite a lot of content for an early access title of its variety, I guess you could say. A lot of early access roguelikes, you know, might not feel totally done. Well, of course, because they're not done, but they might not feel great. You know, if you come from Hades, you know, you probably have a pretty high quality perception, I guess you could say. So it might be tough or jarring to go to another random roguelike that's in early access that doesn't really quite meet your standards, you know? So what does it have? I mean, it's got 6 weapons, as you do. It's got 18 aspects with 6 more planned to come. It's already been confirmed even. 7 bosses, 4 familiars, 7 zones, 25 arcana cards, 8 gods, numerous NPCs, endless amounts of dialogue. I mean, honestly, I'm still not even through all the dialogue. I had to kind of like half give up for now, and I'll pick it up later on, you know what I mean? But there is more than enough content here, if that is your concern. There is an insane amount of content here in the game. The amount of content here should not be a concern at the least. It's understandable to have some concerns about the game, but I don't think you should really allow the amount of content to be one of those. So, what's after that then? So, now that we've gotten the content out of the way, right? You know, some people say like, oh, it has more content than Hades 1. It's like, yeah, maybe it does. Maybe it does. I mean, it's kind of arguable because it has some things that are more, it has some things that are less than in Hades 1. But they're actually quite close. Yes, it is true that they are relatively close to being pretty much equal in terms of content already, and this game's not even done yet. So let's move on to some of the more frequently asked questions after that point, and sort of why, you know, I would recommend this game in general. Maybe try to sell you on it at least a little bit here, you know what I mean? So what is the benefits of playing early access? You know, that's probably the good follow-up here, right? Is why would you play in early access? Why wouldn't you just wait? Well, I don't have good reasons to play in early access, you know what I mean? My answer to the question of, is it worth the price based on the content it currently has, my answer is yes. Should you play it in early access? I don't think I can personally answer that question for you. I mean, it's really easy for me to say, yeah, absolutely, you know, 100% everyone should play this game because I like it so much, but I don't know anything about you. I don't know what games you like. Assumably, if you're watching this video, then you probably like the Hades games, you know? So it's easy to say that you should probably play the sequel then. And if you have the means to, I mean, you have a functioning PC that meets the minimum requirements, I think you should probably play Hades 2 then. So the actual benefits of early access are kind of vague, admittedly, then, because it's really just, you know, a matter of, do you think you'll enjoy taking part in the feedback process of the game, you know? Submitting bugs or suggestions about the game to Supergiant. You know, do you think you'd enjoy seeing the game evolve as it continues as well? Perhaps, you know what I mean? Maybe you would. Maybe you don't really care about that stuff. Maybe, or do you care about being part of a community as well? Because I think that's a big part of it. It's one of the things that drew me to the first Hades, whether I, you know, thought it would or not, was the community building aspect. I didn't think I would really get into it, but I wound up with it, honestly. Just wound up in it, you know? So that was kind of big for me back in the day. And what led me to taking such a big part in the early access of Hades 1, even though I'm pretty sure I had never played an early access game prior to that moment. So that's pretty much all I got. Otherwise, yeah, you can wait. You can wait. You can wait on this game if you want. You know, there's no real huge tangible downside. You're not going to miss out on like some weird temporary content or anything like that. You know, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. The only other potential thing is, which is kind of vague here too, is like maybe there will be a price increase on the game. Hades 1 went from $20 to $25 at some point during its early access, so it went up in price slightly. At one point, I think it went to Steam or something like that. But that was it, you know what I mean? So it's not bad. So what are the downsides of early access? Because truth be told, it probably does have more downsides than upsides, because I can't really convince you on the upsides too much, at least, I think. I think the biggest things that I could foresee someone kind of maybe perhaps regretting about getting into the game right now would be burning out on it. You know what I mean? I'm probably not the only one who's bought into an early access game. I liked it a lot. I played it a lot. I put it down. And then like a year or two go by and it's like, oh, it's out. But I'm kind of done with it. You know what I mean? I'm kind of done with it. That happens, I think it's kind of hard to like pick up a game, play it intensely, and then just try to jump back into it. Depends on the person, I guess you could say, right? But that is something, and if you know that you're that kind of person, then you might want to hold out. Just wait till 1.0, you know what I mean? That's all you got to do. The other thing, I guess, then this one might be more me, because I haven't heard anyone else think about it or talk about it that much, I guess you could say, is the story. So it's not that there's anything wrong, but the story's obviously not done. But a lot of the story is being told at the same time right now. So what am I talking about here? This one's kind of harder to describe, but you will experience some amount of the story here during early access if you were to play, but you won't be able to experience all of it. So if you're like me and you're a forgetful person, let's say you play for 100 hours right now and you see pretty much all the dialogue and, you get really familiar with things, and then you don't play the game for a long time, you might kind of forget what happened. So it's kind of harder to jump back in after the fact. Does that make sense? So it might be difficult to really follow the story through all the way. That's what I found in some games, at least, that I've started in early access, and even if I played the game the whole time, I might just kind of like forget throughout that process of playing it, just exactly what occurred, truth be told. I don't think it's so bad that that should really deter you, but I guess it's a consideration that you should have if you're someone who's very focused on the story. If your main draw to Hades 2 right now is the story, then if you play right now, then you're playing an unfinished product and you're not going to be totally fulfilled right now, because there's just like a lot of open ends. It is kind of cool to see it unfold here in early access, but at the same time, like I said, like I'm forgetting things that happened. I have to kind of remind myself and ask other people, like, wait a minute, what's going on again, Maybe that's just a me thing, though, honestly. Maybe it's just a me. All right. Now that I hope I have completely sold you, absolutely no problems, right, on just buying into the game, I guess let me answer just some of the other, like, super common questions that we get here. And maybe we can help you out with that, in case you got them. Because if you're watching this video, you probably got more questions, right? Just about Hades 2 or the early access or God knows what, you know what I mean? So, number one, okay, I got a few for us here. Will saves carry over? I assume that they mean between early access and 1.0. And their answer is Supergiant has confirmed they are doing, quote unquote, everything that they can to make sure that they do. I mean, that's how it worked in Hades 1. In most early access games that I have ever played, they make sure pretty strongly that that is what happens as well, because it would be pretty devastating to players for that not to occur, especially in a game that has a lot of playtime behind it and a lot of grind, essentially, if that makes sense. So, short answer, I can't say 100% certain, but almost certainly, yes, your save will carry over. You will not lose your save. Oh yeah, another weird question I guess sometimes. Will this come to like the Switch or Xbox during early access? Almost 100% no will be the answer to that. That simply almost certainly will not happen. It's just not something that developers tend to do with their early access games. It's just not really plausible or feasible. I think technically there are games out there that are in early access. Like I think Xbox had one exactly that I've seen, and I was shocked. But otherwise, I've never seen early access games, so I'm sorry, that's not going to happen in that time. So how long will it be in early access? This one's hard to answer. There is a roadmap out there. I'd recommend that you take a peek at that. And it answers probably a lot of questions that you might have then about the game if you look at that. So right now, as of this recording, it is November of 2024. Forgive my brain fart here for a moment. November of 2024, they said that there would be at least 2 more updates. Or rather, I think the quote is that their next major update will not be their last in early access. The next major update is scheduled for early 2025. They said it would take less time than this major update. So what does that mean? Like, let me explain that. This game came out in early access May of 2024. It received a major update October 2024. They said there's another update early 2025, and at least one more update after that that has not really been detailed or given a timeline for yet. So that means that probably the earliest time would be somewhere around fall of 2025, if I were to guess, for 1.0. In fact, that's probably not a bad release time. This actually puts early access for Hades 2 only like not even a year and a half potentially out from the initial launch date. So that's really not bad, I think. Hades 1 remained in early access from December of 2018 until September of 2020. It was nearly 2 full years. They said that this game was starting out at a, further along timeline, I guess is the best way I can describe it. It was further along in development when it hit early access. But it's also a much bigger game, in a lot of ways. There are a lot more zones, to put it bluntly. There's 2 entire paths, whereas Hades 1 had 1 path, with 1 set of enemies per zone. Well, I mean, this game also has 1 set of enemies per zone, but, more enemies for every single zone, right, is basically what I'm getting at. So there's a lot more things to develop just around having all these additional zones compared to the first game. So that's probably all we're going to get and all we're going to know. We do not have release dates, in case I didn't make that super clear there with these statements. And Supergiant is almost certainly not going to give us concrete release dates. They don't really do that, to be honest. They're no Team Cherry. This isn't Silksong, you know what I mean? They're a little bit better behaved than that at a minimum. They give us like updates from time to time and stuff, but they do keep things quite tight, I guess you could say. They keep things quite close-fisted. I didn't know this game was even existing until the day it was announced. And I'm someone who's generally very close to the production of their games, I guess. Not that I have my inside sources necessarily, but it is still kind of surprising that nothing managed to leak out whatsoever. I had no clue. I had absolutely no clue. So we're probably not going to really know. We will know when they're planning for 1.0, but I would be surprised if we get a actual launch day. You know what I mean? I would be surprised if we actually get a date for launch prior. We will simply probably get a rough timeline. It's going to be the next major update in the next few months or something along those lines. You know what I mean? That's probably the best that we can do. So what's planned for the game right now? We talked about what's already in the game. What do they plan to add? So on the roadmap right now, like the next thing that they plan to do for the next major update in the game, they said they are working on the final confrontation on the surface route. We are in the underworld route right now as of this gameplay. Did that work? I think it worked. So they are working on the final conversation. They don't call it the final zone, interestingly, but I mean, you can decipher from that whatever you want, I guess. But yeah, they call it the final confrontation. Might just be one big boss battle. I don't really know. We have 4 more aspects to come, 1 to each weapon. So we have all the hidden aspects, as they called them in the first game, to come to this game. They have already been data mined as to the names, unless they decide to change them somewhere along the way. I do have a video of that if you want to see that. I also have a video that kind of covers just like what's new in Hades 2 compared to Hades 1. So if you want to see either of those, they're kicking around for you whenever you want. So what else is planned that we know of? I think they said one more familiar. They said more boons are planned for the next major update. Not more gods, interestingly. They simply stated more boons. Now, what does that mean? It's kind of hard to say because we kind of have the roughly exact amount of boons that Hades 1 had in this game already. It's the same amount of gods, so like same amount of duo boons and legendaries, but we also have infusion boons available to us. So that's a little something. So we actually have more, you know, so what are they planning exactly? I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to keep it a surprise that they are going to give us a new god. I'm not sure. Some of the old gods have returned later on, but they are not what we would call like full boon-giving gods. Athena, Artemis, and Dionysus have returned, but they are NPCs you run into at random, similar to people like Patroclus and Hades 1, and they give you a blessing for that run at that time. What else is planned? Just, it looks like, it definitely seems like there's more to do with the fear system, the difficulty system, you know. They haven't really spoken about it, but almost certainly there will be some things to work on there, you know, lots of polishes. We have the final story, of course, to look forward to, as you do. We have, you know, lots of finishing touches that we probably don't really need to get into all the details of and me explain every single thing to you here. No more new weapons. As far as we know, no new playable characters. So yeah, one of the questions I have on the list here is, what about Zag? What's going on with Zag? Where's Zag and all that sort of stuff? He is mentioned in the story. I'm not going to go into it, to be honest, though. And it's not me trying to withhold information. He is mentioned. He is brought up. He is even shown, I will say. But that's as far as I'm willing to go, I guess, right now. Will he be a playable character? I mean, that's up to you. Whatever your crazy theories are, you go ahead and have them. If you force me to answer, I don't think he will be. Just doesn't really seem like it's in the cards. This is Mel's game. This is Mel's story, and I think it's for me, it would be more important to focus that development time on the actual like content that we can feel than like another playable character. But that's just me, you know, and I'm not everybody. So anyway, now that we're at the end of the game here, so I got some more like of the weirder questions that I get here, you know, like some of the super subjective things, you know, what people ask, you know, people ask and therefore I shall answer. Number one is this better than the first game? And I mean, again, it's this is like super subjective. I mean, for me, I can't really say. I can't answer that question. You know what I mean? I played Hades 1 so much to the point where I have no desire to play the game again. You know, I don't hate playing the game, but I don't desire to play the game, if that makes sense. So it's really hard for me to live in such a way where I think that I am actually interested in playing it. Does that make any sense? I don't know. It's like my children, you know, I can't really say. I can't say which one I like more. I love both of these games equally, I guess is what I'm saying. So if you force me to answer this question, all I can say is Hades 1 was very special for me. And while Hades 2 is special, it's not as special because it's, you know, didn't define a career for me. I didn't develop a community around it so much, you know, it didn't form as many memories, etc., etc., etc. So Hades 1 will always be super special to me in that sense. Which game do I have more fun playing right now? Hades 2, 100%, because there's so much more for me to experience. There's still so many more combinations for me to check out, you know? And so that's basically my answer around that. And with that, the run is also done at the same time. And it's probably a perfect time. I hope I helped answer some of the questions here, because this is, like I said, probably the most common question that I get about the game is just simply, is this game worth it? And I hope I explained it best I could. I hope I sold this to some people here. So in case, you know, you are interested in the game or you were on the fence on it, maybe this kind of convinced you. You know, one of the questions I didn't even get to here is, I heard this game was like slow or slower paced or whatever. Well, hopefully, you know, watching this run while me jammering on about the game kind of showed you how incorrect I feel that is, you know, like the pacing is still just like super frantic and fast paced. So if that's what you're looking for, I think Hades 2 has it. Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you got more questions about Hades 2 in whatever capacity, whatever you want, feel free to ask in the comments. In fact, I highly recommend it. I will do my best to reply to you. Thank you one more time, and I'll see you in another video.